So, guys, thanks for calling in. My name is Brandon Lewis. If you don't know my background, I'm the founder and publisher of the Tennessee Conservative, which is the state's largest conservative news alternative, primarily focusing on your state legislature with a handful of forays into local government when the need arises. And I have worked on and won 14 different campaigns or legislative efforts. I don't do that anymore. Many of you might remember me from my time as a huge advertiser here on talk radio, which I love the platform, when I ran my painting business. But I've been coaching painting contractors for 12 plus years now, and that is how I make my living. I do the civic engagement stuff for the sake of being a good contributing Tennessean. And we've got some big races coming up here in about a month now, and that includes a contested race for County Commission in District 2 with Chip Baker and Brad Wardlaw, County Commissioner District 9 with Steve Highlander and Donna Christian Lowe, Eversole versus Tanya Sadler in District 10, and a couple of school board fights between Sabrina Daniel and Sterling Dupree, and also Gary Cohen, if that's how you pronounce his name, and James B. Walker. I've asked some of the candidates if they just want to call in and tell you why that you should vote for them, or maybe why you shouldn't vote for somebody else to do that. And we've got my representative, Chip Baker, one of the candidates running for this position. Mr. Baker, I appreciate you calling in. You're on the Talk Monster.
Good afternoon, Brandon. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, tell us your story and why you feel like you deserve another term on the county commission, what's ahead of us, and what you're hearing out there relative to development and things of that nature. I know we've had a lot of conversations around the densification, if that's a word, of the rural areas. So I'll give you the platform. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I like the word densification. That's probably apropos. So, kind of real quick recap. My wife and I moved here from Dallas, Texas in 1992. I spent the first 20 years of my life as a hospital administrator, moved here to run Children's Hospital at Erlanger, and just fell in love, like so many people, fell in love with the community, what it was doing, how it was starting to change back in the early 90s, and got involved in the community early through my connections with Children's. And then in 1999, changed careers and I don't know if anybody remembers the air shows, but I used to run those. And because I had my pilot's license, I really got into the event because it benefited Children's, and I'm hanging out with F-16s and F-18s. So I changed careers to run Riverbend so we could stay here. In 2000, someone approached me about being on the school board. They talked about high school on Signal Mountain. They've been talking about it for 50 years. And it was probably the coolest thing I've ever been involved with because it was a community effort to get the high school. I started in 2000. We got it approved in 2006, opened it in 2008, and it's one of the top 5% public schools in the country now because of the community involvement. And so I enjoyed doing that for 12 years. Took about a 6-year break. People wanted me to run for commission. So in 2018, I ran. 2022 ran again. And then here we are in 2026.
Awesome.
So, people say, why do I do it? And I'm 68, so I've been around the corner. I've got a ton of experience, a ton of relationships. But really, it goes back to 92 when we knew no one here. And the way the community embraced us, it's just a way to give back. I have no further political aspirations. It's what we do is kind of our mission to help our community.
Well, very good. Well, I appreciate you calling in. Do you have any final pitch for the voters, folks that are thinking about going to the polls? They'll have an auction this time around as to why they should choose you, and I'll let you have the final word there.
Well, it's probably two reasons. One is I've been in business for 40 years. I teach mid-level managers now. I've done that for I'm in my 7th year. And so I take my expertise with a great program and teach future leaders. But I love working with people. That's my strength. I think I've maybe made in my almost 8 years 6,000 votes. Have a ton of interaction with constituents. Occasionally, miss somebody, that happens because I get about 250 emails a day. But I'd say I got about a 99.9% track record. I love helping people, and then of course, as back to your densification, which I love that word. So we recently split the RPA from being one global RPA to one that's focused on the county. We'll be developing that over the next 90 days. Specifically to Signal Mountain, we have road issues to start with, and by that I mean roads up and down the mountain. We have 127, which is a state highway, about to undergo major modifications in August. That's going to really put a crimp on things. We've got then the W Road and Roberts Mill, which are really nice wagon roads. I got the W Road repaved, and a week after it was repaved, we had a rock slide. And then, of course, Roberts Mill, about 5 years ago, we had to do a major repair to get it back. At one point, probably 6 weeks ago, we had so much ice that all three roads were closed. So if you had an emergency, I guess the only way down the mountain would have been Life Force. So, so roads are a big issue. When I ran Children's, we had premature kids that were very small to 300-pound 13-year-olds, and you had to have the right equipment to care for each. And the analogy is, in Hamilton County, we're very different in different parts of the county, and one size does not fit all. And so one of the things we'll be working on is the densification of Signal Mountain, starting with roads. And, of course, we've got 2 elementary schools that are near capacity. Working with Ben Dougherty on that, working with Walden's Ridge on an urban growth opportunity. So there's a lot to do, but it gets down to what I enjoy most, which is working with people.
Well, thanks for calling in, Chip. We are up on a hard break. We have Travis here from Activate Hamilton, a grassroots organization. Travis, welcome to the Talk Monster.
Hey, Brandon. How's it going?
It's going great, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. You mentioned 2 great conservative groups to follow. I'd like to recommend a third. That's Activate Hamilton. We're on the socials, on the website, activatehamilton.com, and we're trying to get conservatives to have a unified voice to get things done and put the right people in office and call attention to legislation that doesn't agree with our morals and values and challenges our freedoms, and then also celebrate good legislation and celebrate good candidates and politicians that are going to do the right thing.
So you've got some endorsements from your organization, and we'll have to be quick and concise on this because we've got a couple other callers to bring on. Can you talk a little bit about who your organization is supporting, and as succinctly as you can, why?
Well, sure. Like I said before, we want to look at those Republicans and identify the ones that we feel like are really going to move the needle in terms of conservative values. They're not going to say they're Republican and vote like Democrats. They're not going to think they got to move to center as the rest of the world moves left. They're going to stay right. And so I've got two school board members that we are endorsing here in Hamilton County. We've got 2 that we've been public with and 2 that we're about to announce next week. I might as well go ahead and announce them all. But right now, James B. Walker is running for Hamilton County School Board District 9. That's basically Central High School, Brown Middle, Harrison Bay, Harrison Elementary, Hunter Middle, Snow Hill, Wallace A. James Walker, he believes that parents need to have more transparency. They need to be more welcomed when they come to the school. They need to be encouraged to get involved with the kids' education. He believes in fiscal responsibility. He cited to me that even though the HCDE, the Department of Education, says that only 8% of the workforce is central office, he points out that 30% of the cost of total payroll is going to central office. So he's going to take a good hard look and cut where he needs to. And he also believes in safety and discipline. Outside the schools, they're pretty locked down. Thank God. We need to have them locked down, and we got to have our SROs, and that's good. But inside the schools, we need to have safety inside the schools. And we're talking about the discipline for students needs to be the same for everyone. Nobody gets a special pass because of their background or anything. If they are a disruption to the school, they need to be out. They need to be properly disciplined. So James B. Walker, District 9. District 8, we're endorsing Sterling Dupre. Sterling Yes, the Eastridge Market or Eastridge area, Spring Creek Elementary. Sterling, he is. There was some discussion about the DEI programs within Hamilton County. He's going after that. He's committed to going after that. It's a violation of federal law, but yet somehow that it's a problem with the school board. They can't seem to get to a conclusion there. That's going to be really important for him. Item for him. He's also going to look at the overhead at the HCDE offices. And proactive engagement with the curriculum. He thinks the parents need to know what their kids are assigned to read. He's committed to getting rid of inappropriate, sexually explicit reading materials from assignments in school libraries. We thought we had that taken care of, but just a few months ago, Saudi Daisy, I think it was, that mom had to call attention to an assignment that was given to her kid. We don't need that anymore. We're going to take a good hard look also at the discipline in the classroom. We talked to multiple candidates, and they've all identified basically the same thing. It comes to the transparency for parents and for the discipline from inside. You got kids that are wreaking havoc inside the classroom that are a threat to the teachers and a threat to the educational environment, but nothing's getting done about it. So James B. Walker is going to get something done about it, and so is Sterling Dupre. And we're coming out next week. We're going to go ahead and announce it now. Ashley Dillon. Ashley is School Board District 3. That's Big Ridge, DuPont, Hickson Elementary, Hickson High, Loftus, McConnell, Middle Valley. She wants a back to basics education, math proficiency requirements, just like that we have for third grade reading requirements. She also wants the teachers to teach to focus on spelling. Kids can't spell; it's all done automatically in Word. But she also wants them to go back and learn cursive. How many kids can't even read cursive now? They're not teaching anymore, and it's my understanding it's on a school by school basis. There's not a uniform policy on this. So she wants to make a difference in that area. And she too says parental liberty, increased transparency, and safety and discipline. Cindy Fain. Cindy Fain is our fourth endorsement. She's in School Board District 6. That's Alpine Crest, Chat High, Normal Park, Upper and Lower, Red Bank, High and Middle, and Rivermont.
All right. Well, we've got to go. So we've got Cindy Fain, Sterling Dupree, James B. Walker by Activate Hamilton. You can go to activatehamilton.com or org. It's Brandon Lewis taking a hard break here on the Talk Monster. It matters who you send to the school board so that they have the courage and the conviction to make sure that the culture is focused on preparing these kids for careers and equipping them to think for themselves. And we have one such gentleman who is running for SEC, that's the State Executive Committee, who's calling in, Mr. Derek Greene on line one. Derek, welcome to the Talk Monster.
Yes, sir, Brandon.
Well, talk to us a little bit about, and we'll have to be succinct here, about what you're running for, why it's important, and, always tell people when you're running against an incumbent, it's not simply that, hey, shucks, I'm a good guy. You have to give people a reason to switch their vote. And it's important. Contrast, especially as it revolves around voting records, is critically important. So, Derek, talk about why you think you're a better candidate and why we may need a change in the SEC in this regard.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So just so people know, because a lot of people don't understand State Executive Committee responsibilities and roles. And, we send legislators to Nashville to represent us. Well, we represent the local party at the state level on that state executive committee to make sure the Tennessee Republican Party is essentially following their bylaws and their policies, that they're writing good policy. And we're the conduit between the local area we represent and what the state party is doing. And there has to be some accountability there. And so for myself, I'm running as the committeeman for Senator Watson's district in District 11 here in Hamilton County. And there's a committeeman and a committeewoman in each senatorial district across the state. So there's 66 total members. And Brandon, I've been following politics the last 7 or 8 years and got really intense and involved during COVID. Heard you earlier talking about that. And, we've sent people away and we've not paid attention to what they're doing, and it's time. And so as I've had a chance to look at the local leadership and delegation and the things that are being put out there, again, my opponent did not support Senator Watson's legislation to take away funding for illegal immigrants in schools. And that was baffling to me. And, state or the local party sent a resolution up to the state saying, listen, we are for closed primaries. And my opponent also voted against that. So he's for open primaries. And I just can't imagine any true conservative Republican that is paying attention would welcome that. And then the last thing I would say is, and this is really was the tipping point for me, we have a bona fide Republican who's gotten off her couch. She's worked really hard to go to primaries to vote. She pays attention to local party races. She gets involved, and she's running for, and that's Ashley Dillon, she's running for school board in District 3. And my opponent put a non-bona fide Republican up against her and went to bat for this gentleman to run against someone that is a true Republican. And we have no idea what this gentleman's true voting record is like, because for the last 10 or 12 years, he's only voted in general elections, and you can't tell party affiliation in those. And so enough was enough. Keeping conservative values alive in Hamilton County is extremely important to me, and that's why I got involved.
Well, you would certainly have my endorsement, because we can't do worse. When you've got an issue, Derek, and I actually took my own personal money to poll on, and I spent about $3,000 to poll bona fide voters in Hamilton County on whether or not they wanted illegal immigrants to receive taxpayer-funded education, and it was like 80-something% against it. And so the thing that kills me is when SEC committee members are supposed to support the views of their district, and then they vote exactly in the opposite of their district, like David Queen did on that issue. And I know that closing the primaries is about an 85% issue as well. They need to just, run as an independent or run as a Democrat, but they don't need to pretend that they represent the senatorial district and the local Republicans. So that's what I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, well, you mentioned this earlier. I was listening a bit earlier, and you talked about how when people get to Nashville, they kind of lose their way, right? They don't follow their constituents. They don't vote as the constituents would like for them to. They get to Nashville and they want to be on committees. They want to be heads of committees. And so they start to just follow instructions, right? And it's like, if you just follow instructions, we'll put you forward and we'll continue your journey on the political path because we've got the power. And I think that's what's happening here. I mean, a lot of these local leaders have been involved forever. They've been pushing the same people forward, and they don't like disruption. And so it's time to disrupt what's been happening. And I sat idly by long enough. I've got 6 kids, ages 15 down to 20 months, and enough is enough. And so I want to stand strong for every citizen in Hamilton County District 11, and I want to stand strong for the youth that are coming behind us, because if we stay quiet, I cannot imagine what we're going to be faced with the next generation when they're trying to function and survive on individual liberties and rights.
I completely agree, Derek. I appreciate you calling in. I'm going to have to hop to another call here. So, guys, when you look at your ballot for SEC, you've got one that likely doesn't align with your value, according to the polling that I have done, and one that's a lot more likely to. So Mr. Greene has my strong endorsement for that race and for that reason. Brad Wardlaw, you're going to have to make it snappy because we're in the last of the show here. We had Chip Baker call in, and you are running against him for county commission in the Republican Party. So state your case and tell us a little bit about why you're running and perhaps what makes you different than Mr. Baker.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate you taking my call and having me on here. I think I stand out from Mr. Baker because he has to tell everybody that he's conservative, but if you start digging into his record and see things, he's donated to progressive candidates, for years. He openly endorsed Tim Kelly for Chattanooga mayor, and for the District 2 residents that live in the city limits, that's been very harmful to everyone because of the drastic increase in property taxes that we've felt. And now they're talking about continually raising them every year because they can't control their spending. Mr. Baker was in favor of pushing a 34-cent property tax for increase on Hamilton County residents a few years back. We continually are supporting a school budget where 37% of students read at grade level. So we're throwing money at problems instead of actually trying to find solutions for the problems. And that's a big way of non-conservative thinking, in my opinion.
Well, I agree that most people, if they really knew the performance of the schools, which is the largest portion of where our budget goes in the county budget, they would be concerned and that budgets should, in my opinion, match performance. And when less than 50% of the money makes it into the classroom and the rest of it's gobbled up in administration, it's not good. And I don't know of a single Republican that is in favor of tax increases. Everybody has to live within their means, especially in this inflationary economy. And I think that the county government should do the same, as should the schools. Where can people go to find more information about your candidacy, and also, what makes you different? And I'll give you the last word right before we take a break.
So they can check out www.bradfordhamilton.com. That's our campaign website where they can get on, ask questions, and find out what I stand for. What's going to make me different is I'm going to show up in our community. Mr. Baker wasn't even present for the budget hearings for 2 of the volunteer fire departments in his district this week. That's a failed leadership right there. We need accountable officials that want to be involved in the entire community, not just small pockets of it. And that's my plan, is to be a county commissioner for the entire area of District 2.
Well, Mr. Wardlaw, I appreciate you calling in. Best of luck to all the candidates on the campaign trail. We're going to take a short break and be right back. Guys, it's important. What we learned during COVID is that leadership matters, and that when we are faced with a challenge to our constitutional liberties, when there are special interests pushing against what's best for the common man in Hamilton County, that often, because we're uninformed and disorganized, we don't really hold them accountable to represent us. So I'd like to kind of close out the program with some words of advice. If you're out there and you find yourself consuming about 18 hours a week of Fox News and conservative podcasts about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and you look at your budget, and maybe you're giving a little bit of money to some of these federal causes that really make your heartstrings pull, or maybe just completely enrage you, I'm going to ask that you take some of that time and some of that money, and that you instead focus it on what's going on in your state and local community. What would that look like? I tell you, one of the reasons I got out of politics for 6 years is because if I can't make a difference in something, I pay zero attention to it. That's one reason we've had a few callers that wanted to call in and talk about what President Trump's doing. And to me, that's like getting up in the morning and checking the weather on Mars to pick your clothing. It has nothing to do with you, and you can't do much about it. But when it comes to state and local, you can. You can sit down and meet with your school board members. You can call up your state reps and state senators and get their ear. You can pay attention to what's going on in your county, local, and state government, and go to Nashville. You can make a phone call. You can work for a candidate. And I promise you that every hour that you spend, every moment that you spend, every dollar that you spend supporting a local or state candidate will make a tremendous difference compared to peeing that money away on a lot of the federal issues. And so I've often said that I can tell if someone is conservative primarily by looking at 2 things. I can look at their calendar, and I can look at their bank account. And if they've invested nothing in making their community better in local races and local legislative efforts, if they've spent no time knocking on a door, making a phone call, putting out yard signs, and supporting candidates in their local area, chances are that, like a lot of people in our culture today that quote-unquote identify as something they're not, they identify as conservative, but they don't really live in a way that advances conservatism. They couldn't tell you. They couldn't point to anything that they had done to make a significant difference. And so I'm encouraging all of you who tune in to Yaffee Live to find a candidate, to find a cause, to find something you can get behind, and to simply shift your focus a little bit to make a difference.